I will admit I was on one of the site visits with OHRP that ultimately did lead to a shutdown. It was a situation where we went and found lots of things in the institution, chose not to address it, and then was shut down because of that. But it was interesting because in that situation, and I'll talk about the shutdowns, but I'll also talk about something else. In that situation, when we went and interviewed, members of the staff and the faculty and whatever at that site, everyone said how much they loved their IRB. And I kept thinking to myself, how can someone really love their IRB? Everything was, I love, they're great, they're fast. And at that point, I said, something may not be right here because, you can appreciate, you can have good comments, but there's always got to be what I consider this healthy tension, And so to me, that was a clue. And it turned out that's exactly what the issue was, that IRB did not have the resources to be doing what it should be doing, and that things were not being handled the way they should. And eventually that IRB, was shut down, not because, like I said, because they didn't have a list of things to clean up. They just sort of ignored it in the end. But to me, that sort of was an example of sort of what was going on. And I don't think that institution was alone. I mean, it may have been an extreme, but I honestly think because many of us, at least in the administrative area of IRBs, just kept saying, by the grace of God, it could be me. And so it was horrible that these things happened, certainly. It caused an incredible amount of problems, issues, money lost, investigators' careers, all of that. But in the end, I have to say, it called attention to something that needed attention called to it. And I was always very fortunate to have an institution that recognized resources, but there weren't many that didn't. And so this was a wake-up call. Now, I think what happened was that everyone got so scared. The pendulum swung so that you didn't want to do anything, and everyone started, being so overcautious and overburdening that you forgot to look at some flexibility. There was sort of an insanity that resulted because of that. But I think overall, it did call attention. I mean, people knew what the word IRB was after those shutdowns. And so is that a bad thing? I don't think that was a bad thing. I don't know how, I wish it could have been a little bit different so that we weren't in such an era that we were so afraid. I mean, I can remember, my husband is an internal auditor. And I can remember at that particular time, all of a sudden now, all of the universities and hospitals, their internal audit departments were going crazy because this was like a risk. And this was something no one even knew about or paid attention to. So all of a sudden, all the internal audit offices were being told, you got to go to the IRB, you got to speak to them, including my husband. Well, when they found out that my husband was married to someone who works with an IRB, I actually was asked to go to 2 conferences of university internal auditors and present with him, which is another story, but to talk about this because all of a sudden this became something that people wanted to know about. Now, did internal audit go and do good audits? I don't want to comment on that. But the fact that institutions and those who led institutions and who were thinking about things were aware of that, I think that there was something positive that that came out of it. I think it's just one of those things. It was unfortunate it had to happen. I think there was a silver lining a little bit to it, but I think we're still trying to now take advantage of what was good, but try and undo what was not good, the overreactivity, which has lived on and has been concerning as well.